Geo is one of the most reoccurring side characters within Dragon's Rising, typically appearing at least once per every single season and part, and honestly I think it's amazing because what he does bring to the table I do think is fairly interesting. But I do think there is an inherent problem when it does come to Geo. For all of the time he has had on screen, it definitely does feel like he deserves better, because it does truly feel like there is a problem with him that hasn't really been addressed during all of this time he's had on screen. And that is what I want to address today. I want to go through what Geo actually has and what he's actually accomplished so far within Dragon's Rising, and just talk about what the writers could actually do to really expand on this character, because it definitely does feel like they want to do more with this character, but they just haven't really committed to it. And I, for one, definitely do want to see it happen, and I do want to know if you guys want to see it happen as well. But I do think regardless of what happens with the character moving forward, I should want to acknowledge the issue that is presence when it does come to him. So let me not waste any more of your time and let's talk about the problem with Geo. Like I just said, Geo has been around since the first season of Dragon's Rising, and he has been around for basically every other episode at this point, because typically speaking, he is around Cole. Him and Cole have this, well, controversial relationship at best that has not been confirmed nor denied. I am not touching on that today, but he has always had a link back to the ninja because of that. But he's also the father-like figure of the Finders, another group that Cole does heavily associate with and considers his second family. So it does show that Geo has definitely had a place amongst the cast in Dragon's Rising. He is also the proud owner of one of the new elemental powers that we have seen within Dragon's Rising as well, and that is the elemental power of fusion. He is able to take two objects and have them welded together, essentially like a toolsmith. It is being used in a very interesting sense across the course of the show, from as simple as combining two weapons together to make a double-ended weapon, to as far as attaching Raz's armor to a post so Raz couldn't actually move. He's had some really creative scenes, and he definitely has utilized his power fairly well, going as far as the fact that he was also in the Tournament of Sources, where he wasn't any sort of slouch. Of course, he went out of the competition eventually, but he wasn't like he was eliminated early on either. So regardless, he has had some really cool moments and some really cool development. But that's the thing. What I have mentioned is essentially the long scope of what he has actually had. He has, for the most part, like I said, just been attached to Cole. His arc has mainly just revolved around it, and initially speaking, he had an arc where he had Cole convinced that his power was helpful for Cole. And I honestly think that was an interesting concept that they could have gone somewhere with. But beyond that, he was mainly just responsible for being the father-like figure of the Finders, being there when the Finders were, taking care of them, taking care of beyond the Finders later on, like Rontu and Frohiki. He definitely has had that more caring role, but that has been near enough it. And that's not to say it's not insignificant what he's done, because I genuinely do think he's been given more than a lot of other side characters, and also been given some interesting feats that rival some of the main characters. Like I said, he welded Raz's armor to a post in the monastery, and that's because he fought Raz, and even though he didn't last for an extremely long time, he still did hold his own and got some good swings in on him. So it's definitely not the case that he has absolutely nothing and he has been purged of any sort of personality. It's just he is feeling very one note beyond those very brief moments. And I think this is why I want to make this video. The fact that he does have these brief moments that really does show that he could be something more, only for it to be then downgraded back to just simply not really much, maybe one or two lines in an episode, really does feel like a shame, because I do think there are some plots out there for Geo that could work alongside a main plot line when it does come to Dragon's Rising. And honestly, I don't even have just one, I have a few. The first Geo plot point that I think they could explore comfortably within Dragon's Rising would be just something surrounding him and Cole, bring more clarity to the dynamic that they do have, because like I said, even though I'm not commenting on it, it is very controversial at best. So given a little time to expand on these two characters, I do think would be a massive net positive for both of them, but in particular Geo. It would give him a lot of validation for actually being around as much as he is, because when you do then look at the other Finders, you realize that some of them have had more than him, and they don't even have as many lines as him. The main one, of course, being Bonsor. Bonsor had a very big aspect of Season 2, and of course she doesn't have too much now, now, but I do still think regardless, it does show that they can do something if they did truly want to. And like I said, I do think it would be a massive help for Cole as well. The second plot point I could definitely see them do, which I do think would be interesting to see, is how something more centric to himself that surrounds the fact that he is a hybrid between the Munts and the Geckles. One of the biggest emphasis on his character, and the reason why he's in the position he's in during Dragon's Rising, is the fact that he was essentially rejected by both tribes due to their historical rivalry. The fact that he was a hybrid of the two was something that neither tribe was willing to accept. So if they had a story surrounding the struggles that he faced with being forgotten, the struggles with being the hybrid, how he was treated before he found the Finders and Cole, I definitely do think that would be extremely interesting to see. Of course, this would be a relatively big plot point and would definitely be difficult to do for him in Dragon's Rising because of how tight the running time is. But if this was expanded, say, into external media like a comic or something, I definitely do think that would be perfect for amplifying who this character truly is, because this is definitely something that makes him feel extremely unique, and honestly, I for one would love to see that. And the third plot point, and the most feasible one that I could see of the lot, would be to give him something along the lines of Euphrasia. Euphrasia's had a very similar thing in line with Geo across the seasons that she's had. She has had her odd moment where she's had some form of feat, but then she goes back to being relatively bland. But as of season 4 part 1, they've given her a chance to actually be a part of the team. They gave her some development, they gave her relationships with other characters, they gave her things to truly bounce off of, and it definitely did benefit her in more ways than one. I could honestly now see them doing that for Geo as well. Geo, having him go with the ninja on an adventure, have him utilize his powers to the ninja's benefit, have him actually have a spot within the team instead of just being simply on the side. This would also give more chance of other characters just simply interacting with him. He mainly just interacts with Cole at this point. I've never really recall him interacting with Kai or Nia or Lloyd, which is just a massive shame. And I just think that's something that should be done because it just would go miles for the character, as we've provably seen. Honestly, any three of these plot points would just do so much for this character. They could do honestly so many things with just these three simple concepts alone and just really make him feel just so much more three-dimensional. It would just do so much considering the fact that, like I said, he has had a lot of screen time. Show where he got his skills from. There are more ideas I could think of beyond that. Like I said, he had a decent fight with Raz. Where did he learn to fight? Where did he learn to do all of these little things that he does around the monastery? Where did he learn to become a healer? Where did he learn to care for people around him? That would be fantastic to explore. But of course, that would rely on them actually giving time to the character that would just be beyond brief instances. They fully do have the capability to do this, I just simply hope that they do. But I really do hope that beyond all of this, Geo just simply has more of a stay beyond the scope of Dragon's Rising. I hope he's not a character that falls by the wayside once the Dragon's Rising plot points are wrapped up. When the main ninja team are fully back together and they're fully firing all cylinders, I hope Geo is not a consequence of that. Because a big discussion that I and a lot of other people have had lately is what characters introduced in Dragon's Rising will survive Dragon's Rising. And I hope Geo is genuinely one of them. There are characters that I could see not being a part of the team anymore and leaving the show, like Ryu. I just hope he doesn't succumb to that same fate, because it does feel like all the setup is for something, so if it ends up being nothing, it would just be a massive shame. But I do think when it does come down to it, on an overall scale, I am still happy when it does come to Geo. I am a Geo fan and I am happy with what he does get throughout these seasons. He hasn't fallen from the wayside. He does serve a benefit when he is on the scene. He does honestly steal the scenes when he's usually in them, and that is just absolutely amazing. It's just, I hope they take that one step further. I hope they truly commit to the character and really give us something to do with him, because it would honestly make all of this feel a whole lot more worth it, and I do think that is just something that a lot of people do want. But this is where I am going to pass it off to you guys, because I would love to know your opinion when it does come to Geo. Are you a fan of the character? Do you not like the character? And would you like to see his backstory explored? Would you like his future to be more involved with the ninja? Would you like him to actually have more of a mainstay in Dragon's Rising? I would love to know what you think, because he definitely is one of the more interesting and prominent side characters as it currently stands. And I just hope all of that just isn't for nothing. But I do think I want to take it a step further. Do you think Geo should belong in the show? Do you think Geo is a character that you want to keep around? Would you keep him over other characters? I would love to know what you think, because he is just a character that's ripe for story, but they just need to explore it and they need to commit to it. And that is why I want to know what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching the video, and I do hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider subscribing. I love discussing Ninjago with more people. And if you do want to support the channel any further, which you do not have to, you could always become a channel member and join the legends that you see on screen. Each of you, your support means the absolute world to me, and I honestly cannot thank you enough for everything that you guys do. But like I said, that's about it for today, and take care. Okay, bye!